Welcome to Codex, a history of video games. My name is Tyler Osby.
And I'm Mike Coletta.
And this week, on episode 73, Mike is going to take us deep underground to talk about Earthworm Jim. Now, the only things I know about Earthworm Jim are the video games, and I know there was a TV show.
There was a TV show. We're not going to talk about the TV show today, unfortunately. Sorry, everybody.
Did the TV show come first? Is it a game based on a show, or is the show based on the game?
The show is based on the game. Now, Earthworm Jim, this was on Sega Genesis when it originally came out. It's my favorite thing. I love this game so much. I had an Earthworm Jim action figure where the earthworm part would jump out if you pushed a button on his back. It's pretty cool.
Was it like kind of gooey?
It wasn't really that gooey, if I recall.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of I'm trying to just think of what those things are called. I'm thinking of where they're like, they were like these gross toys that were just all the rage in the 90s.
Oh, like GAC stuff, kind of like that.
Yeah, kind of like that. Only I guess it would have been more self-contained.
Talking about GAC, yeah, I get you. I don't remember what those are called, but Earthworm Jim, what sets him apart from the other characters is he was designed to be a video game character so he could sell toys.
Oh, yeah, because we're talking like early 90s, right? Where it was like everything is all about selling the toys.
Exactly. So it was actually, the idea first started when Playmates Toys, which is a Hong Kong toy company. It was set up in 1979 by Sam Chan. They had a variety of off-brand versions of famous toys. So, for example, they had Nano Pets, which is kind of like Tamagotchis or Gigapets. And
I had a Nano Pet. It was like 20 in one.
So you had a little piece of history from the
I had a
Earthworm Jim
knockoff
times.
Tamagotchi. That's what it was. And I knew that's what it was. But it had 20 pets in it, so it was way better than a Tamagotchi.
Oh, yeah. And the Gigapets only had one also. So you really got in on that brand. And then also they had Kindergarten Babies, which was a Cabbage Patch Kid, essentially.
Kindergarten Babies. That's good.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. So they're essentially their first real... They're not their first success, but one of their big successes as a company, Playmates Toys, came when they licensed Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toys. They got the license for that. And they made so much cash. They're like, oh, yeah. And then they had so much cash that they were like, you know what? We should do our own franchise. And you know what was really big at the time? And this is a great way why this is a total tie-in with the last week's episode is Sonic the Hedgehog was super big at the time. So they're like, we should make a video game that we can use to sell toys. So
perfect.
That was like, it's not by no means a new idea, I would say, but it's pretty risky at this time. It's a newer idea.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not like they were the first ones to do this, but it was a new idea at the time and they wanted to go for it. And so they were all in on this. Okay. So what they did is they started talking to different game designers, and they had one game designer who ended up being the creator of Earthworm Jim, and his name is Doug Dung. I don't know why I said that. Doug Tennaple. I was so focused on his last name, I think, that I messed up his first name. Who messes up the name Doug? Okay,
Don't mess it up.
Yeah, exactly. Doug Tennaple, and he had a simple sketch of an earthworm that he showed to Shiny Entertainment, and they were a development studio at the time. And so Doug Tennaple is kind of a legend of video games, by the way. So he worked as an animator on the Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, the animated series TV show. Remember that?
A classic.
So he's got a really distinct art style. And then he also did video games like Jurassic Park, Stimpy's Invention for the Sega Genesis, and then also the Jungle Book game for SNES. So he worked on video games in the prior. He's experienced, and he drew this earthworm. And David Perry, who was the CEO of Shiny Entertainment at the time, was so impressed by the sketch that they bought the rights to Earthworm Jim immediately from Tennaple, okay? And they started developing the game. Development actually worked with Tennaple doing the game design. He created level ideas. He actually voiced Jim, okay? So he is Earthworm Jim. And while that was going on, Perry and the other programmers at Shiny Entertainment created like the other characters and the game mechanics themselves. So the first Earthworm Jim was published by Playmates Toys and developed by Shiny Entertainment. Okay. The EU version was published by Virgin Entertainment. Okay. It's important to note because I think I remember the Virgin symbol more than I remember Playmates Toys or Shiny Entertainment. Like when I remember playing this game, because I think Virgin also was like Virgin when it would like turn on or whatever.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I remember. So the game's like crazy atmosphere and world and characters are due to the fact that the company had previously been restricted to doing licensed games. So wait a second, like 7-Up's Cool Spot, which we talked about last week. There's a lot of things from last week that we talked about that came into this episode, which I thought was really cool because it was totally by accident. I had no idea. So that's another topic we want to talk about, Chex Quest, etc. But I think we, like you and I, Tyler, we just love early 90s video games. I think that's what we're trying to get to. Okay,
That's true.
That's why we keep bringing these up. So they were so used, as Shiny Entertainment as a company was so used to doing these things, these like, I guess I called them company knockoff games in quotes, but I think it's really just like brand games is a better way to put it. You know, and they were super restricted by those parent companies' preset limitations. So due to this, Earthworm Jim was actually created as kind of a satire of platform video games at the time. And I think that's what made it stand out and why it's so important today.
Oh, okay. I've never actually played the game, so this is all very interesting to me.
Yeah, so it's pretty parody. Like the princess is called Princess What's Her Name, just making fun of the fact that video games had throwaway female characters as love interests. You know, it just throws that away. In fact, if you, spoiler alert, if you beat the game, she doesn't love you. It's just a waste of time. So there was, and what ended up happening is this became Earthworm Jim, this satire of previous platforming games. So the game was a 2D side-scrolling platformer. It had run and gun elements as well because you had a gun, you could shoot stuff. You can control Jim, and you could use his head to like shoot out of his, because of the way it works is Jim is a normal earthworm, but then a super suit fell from the sky and he got into the super suit, and now he's Earthworm Jim. That's the way it works.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
That's the story. Pretty simple.
So the science checks out.
Totally checks out. So he has arms and legs like a human in his suit, and then he can shoot guns and stuff, but then his worm part kind of becomes like a whip where you can whip enemies, or you can like use the whipping of his head to like attach to a hook and swing across a platforming chasm, if you will. A chasm seems like a fun word, okay? But the player, they can use Jim to whip around and do all that stuff, but some levels required they weren't just all get to the end of the level. All right, which is what made Earthworm Jim 1 unique. Like, there's a level called For Pete's Sake, where the computer-controlled Peter Puppy character has to go through the level with you and be completely unharmed during it. And the way you do this is you whip him to make him jump over pits. So you make him platform with your head by whipping him, and then you can defeat enemies in front of him so they don't damage him. So if you do that, the Peter Puppy would actually attack you and hurt you if he took damage. So he could kill you. Yeah. The developers also created a really cool variety of weird villains for the game. So I'm just going to throw some names out for you. Psy-Crow, Queen Slug for a butt, Evil the Cat, Bob the Killer Goldfish. Oh yeah. Major Mucus, and Professor Monkey for a head. So I think these games are great, and they stood out to me because as a kid, I didn't understand what was going on in Ren and Stimpy, but I liked it. And so this is kind of the whole vibe the game kind of gives you. It's like a Ren and Stimpy sort of vibe.
Okay,
so
I got you.
The game was super well received by critics, but what's unique is it was well received on both the Genesis and the Super NES versions.
This was back in the time when the Super Nintendo and the Genesis version of a game could be completely different, right?
Yeah, totally different. And it was given the best Genesis game of 1994 by EGM, Electronic Gaming Monthly. Remember that magazine?
Yes, I do.
That's right. And it was the 114th best game made on a Nintendo system by Nintendo Power in their top 200 games list. Wow. And the game was noted for its fluid animation featuring a hand-drawn style. And that kind of it really sets it apart when you look at it compared to other releases for the Sega Genesis or this SNES. It looks really flowy and like a drawing. It looks good. It looks real good. So there's a special version of the game that came out entitled The Great Earthworm Jim Race, and this was broadcast in 1995 for the Sega Channel.
Oh,
remember this?
Yeah.
I never watched the Sega Channel. Did you watch the Sega Channel?
No, it was like wasn't that like a game downloading service that Sega ran?
Yeah, I think so. I kind of really didn't look up too much about it, but it was definitely like a weird, it's kind of like it's kind of like it was too early.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they were kind of ahead of their time because we had like G4 and stuff for like 2 or 3 generations after this, but they just were kind of going for that now, especially kind of, I mean, courageous to do it with just Sega, like a branded.
Well,
thing.
the Sega channel wasn't like a watch this channel. It was a cartridge that plugged into your Genesis and hooked into your cable service, and then you could download games through it.
Oh, wow.
So it's like completely different from like a G4 or something, it was crazy. So it was even further ahead of its time when you think about it like that, because it was just like there was so much like just like it was like the internet before the internet, although it wasn't before the internet.
Internet before the internet. I like that a lot. Tyler. You're really making up some new stuff this time. I like it.
Atari tried to do something kind of like that, but it also didn't work out.
Yeah, so they did this Sega channel thing, by the way, and I thought it was kind of cool the way it works. So the game had an increase in difficulty level and a secret room, which the first 200 players that got to the secret room got a password and a toll-free phone number, and if they called the number and gave them the password, they got a prize.
That's cool.
Isn't that neat? So yeah, and like seriously, right after Earthworm Jim came out, it was so successful that they're like, you know what? We're going to do a sequel. And that sequel was called Earthworm Jim 2. Very creative naming.
Of course.
Very creative naming. By the way, if you want to know about like scores and stuff, pretty much the Earthworm Jim got above an 8 out of 10 in every single review for the Genesis and SNES version. Wow. Now, when you put other versions into it, like things it was ported to, like Game Gear, it gets a little bit less. Okay. But even their Windows 95 version of the game got 4 out of 5 stars. So it's pretty crazy.
It's pretty good.
Pretty good. So Earthworm Jim is good. But Earthworm Jim 2 was nuts. Now, this is essentially the same story as the original Earthworm Jim, but a lot more focus is put on Psychro as like the main villain. And once again, you're trying to rescue Princess What's-Her-Name. But the big difference is features. There are so many more features in Earthworm Jim 2. So the first difference is there's more guns. And once you find a new gun in a level, it's yours for the rest of the game, a la Doom 2016. So I would say Doom 2016 took this from Earthworm Jim 2.
Stolen.
Just this one game, clearly, because no other games between 1995 and now did that. No way. But the new guns include an auto-aiming gun or the Barn Blaster. And the Barn Blaster is cool because it killed every enemy on the screen when you fired.
Whoa.
Yeah, really neat. So it's really fun. Now, you also get a friend in Earthworm Jim 2, and that friend's name is Snot. And Snot is cool because you can stick him to a wall and you can like swing him from other slimy green surfaces, or you can use him as a parachute. So he's got a lot of uses, Snot. He's really cool.
That's neat.
You gotta love Snot. So what's funny about Earthworm Jim 2 is it's like Earthworm Jim 1 for maybe 2 levels. And they're not even one after it's not even levels 1 and 2. Okay. It's like levels 1 and level 8 are very much like Earthworm Jim 1, okay? Now, that's when things start to get weird. So in the level, the Villi people, Villi, level, you guard a defenseless Earthworm Jim, so you're not in your suit, but you're disguised as a blind cave salamander, and you gotta crawl through intestinal passages while avoiding exploding sheep and hazards embedded into the floor and the walls.
What?
Then, if you're like, hey, this is a really weird level, don't worry. In the middle of the middle end of the level, it switches to a game show format.
Like Banjo-Kazooie, like game show trivia?
Yeah, except this game show, it says the player has to answer nonsensical multiple choice questions that commonly have no logically correct answer. Oh, man, there's so many good examples. Like, there's another level, too, called Inflated Head, and that's where Jim's head is just inflated like a balloon, and you must control Jim as he moves upward, and you can't touch any sharp objects because then you'll fall back to the start of the level. It's pretty great. So Earthworm Jim 2 had the same development schedule as the first in that it was developed for Sega Genesis exclusively, and then it was ported to the Super NES. Okay. That's what makes it even more crazy, is that it was made on the Genesis and ported to the SNES, And even though they were ported, they were virtually the same game, and they were ported really well. Okay,
that's
the
good.
only difference is that in the SNES version, you had an alternate background art in some scenes, and then the ability to switch weapons.
Oh,
which is
sounds
kinda,
like the superior version to me.
I know, right? We don't get any more hot takes because I will argue the Genesis version until I die because I love Genesis. Now, another cool port of the game was actually for the MS-DOS.
Wow.
They have an MS-DOS version of this game. Now, this contained both Earthworm Jim 1 and 2, and it was called Earthworm Jim 1 and 2, The Whole Can of Worms, is what the name of the game was. The port actually featured an upgraded CDDA music soundtrack, so it could have more voice clips, and it had redrawn graphics. But there was one level called Lorenzen's Soil that is not in the game, that was in the Sega and SNES version. Yeah, they just took that level out. I don't know why. The original PlayStation and Sega Saturn versions were both developed by a separate studio called Screaming Pink Inc. They were also released, and they contained the upgraded audio, but they had all the levels of the original. But
Those
they didn't have
definitive
one.
versions.
Yeah, they didn't have one, though. It was just two.
Okay.
So it's like you can get 1 and 2 together, or you can get 2 with some like upgraded audio and stuff, and just keep your copy of 1 handy and just put that in when you feel like it.
I like the subtitle, The Whole Can of Worms. It just sounds like they were having a whole lot of fun making these games.
They really were, and we're going to get to that in the end, because there's something that irks me a little bit about the end, because I'll get to it when I get to it. I'm rushing ahead of myself. I just get so excited talking about Earthworm Jim. Okay, so there are other ports of Earthworm Jim 2. There was a very glitchy Game Boy Advance port in 2002 that we're just going to gloss over because it was really bad. And then there was a Wii console version, and like the virtual console, and then there was an MS-DOS emulator version. So if you wanted to emulate MS-DOS, there was a version
is that
that
on
came.
like goodoldgames.com or something?
I think so. It's stuff like that. I'm not entirely sure what website it's listed on. So
There it is. Earthworm Jim 1 and 2, Whole Can of Worms on GOG.com.
There it is. You can get it right now. You can just live your best life, Tyler. You can do it.
$10. Oh boy.
It's really cheap. So the game was released on Sega Genesis and SNES on November 15th, 1995, and many believe it to be better than Earthworm Jim 1. Now, Earthworm Jim 2 is a lot like Sonic in that way, and this was before any conventional scores really came out, you know? So I had like a bunch of different scores from like different magazines. I will say all the scores of the game are pretty good. The only one that was really terrible I saw was the GBA version. Got a 2 out of 10 because it was just really glitchy and bad. The most important takeaway, though, from Earthworm Jim 2, and it's something we're going to talk about and come up a lot later, this is the last Earthworm Jim game that was developed by the original creators, Doug TenNapel and David Perry, and Shiny Entertainment.
Oh.
So this was the last one.
Is it the last good one?
Maybe, depending on your preferences.
Okay.
How high can my voice get? We'll find out.
Keep going.
So, the next game in the series is Earthworm Jim 3D, and this came out on the N64. And this game was made after the publisher Interplay Entertainment bought Shiny Entertainment.
Okay.
And then the game was developed by Viz Interactive. It's VIS Interactive. Fun fact, the game that published in North America, like what published Earthworm Jim 3D in North America, Rockstar Games.
Oh, wow. This is a little bit off-brand for them.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, though. I like it a lot. So,
Yeah.
development was pretty terrible for Earthworm Jim 3D, mostly because, as I said before, right after the release of Earthworm Jim 2, they're like, we're gonna do this, I think. And then Shiny's like, nope. We have a no sequels policy. We're done with this game. We're not going to do any more Earthworm Jims. We ended on a high note. We're done. Oh, man. Oh, you want to buy us? Okay, sure, Interplay Entertainment. Oh, now you want to do a sequel? Okay, I guess it's the way it is now. That's pretty much how it went down. So, Earthworm Jim, the license for it was given to Viz Entertainment to get the 2D to 3D treatment that was happening to a lot of games at the time. So, Super Mario 64, for example, and Sonic the Hedgehog. They're all getting the 3D treatment, okay?
Lots of games going through the transition.
That's right. So, saying Earthworm Jim 3D had a drawn-out development cycle. is a pretty big understatement. Actually, during the opening line of the IGN review for this game, which I read, it says this, quote, "Around the same time that God created the Earth, work began on a Nintendo 64 title called Earthworm Jim 3D." End quote. It took so long that people thought the game would be vaporware. And you're like, hey, Mike, what's vaporware? Don't worry. We both learned something this episode. Vaporware, this is the definition from Wikipedia, is a, quote, product, typically computer hardware or software that is announced to the general public but is never actually manufactured nor officially canceled. End quote. Did you know what vaporware was, Tyler? I had no idea.
I am familiar with the term vaporware.
So famous vaporware titles in video games are Half-Life 2 Episode 3, Beyond Good and Evil 2, Star
that
Fox.
One's supposed to be coming, right? I mean, they keep talking about it.
No, hey, that's kind of the thing about vaporware. It's going to keep being like that. Right. Apparently, there was going to be an arcade version of Star Fox that never came out. Commander Keen, The Universe's Toast, The Grinder, and 6 Days in Fallujah. They're all famous.
Wasn't 6 Days in Fallujah officially canceled? I don't remember.
I don't remember, but it was on. I was just looking up on Wikipedia vaporware, so it could be. Might have an old citation. You know what I'm saying? So
Maybe.
A lot of people thought Earthworm Jim 3D was going to suffer the fate of being lost in time. Spoilers, it wasn't. The first major change was the game was originally going to be developed for PlayStation, and then they scrapped this version in early 1997 because they wanted to do it on the N64 platform. Because if you recall,
superior platform.
That's right. I was going to say, N64 had stronger hardware than the original PlayStation. So, one of the biggest problems with Earthworm Jim 3D is much of the, a lot of the stuff from old preview and promotional material is not in the final game, and it really confused the public. So, there's actually, on the game's final packaging, it showed Evil the Cat as the boss of the Fear level, the level called Fear. But in reality, Professor Monkey for a Head is the boss of that level. They changed it, and they didn't change the box art.
Whoops.
Yeah, so many locations displayed in early versions of the game are nowhere to be found. Okay, they're just not in the release version. There's also a level where in a house where Jim is like ant-sized, and you like move around that, and that's just not in the version at all, like not in the game. So additionally, there was a character called Evil Jim, Earthworm Jim's evil twin. That's actually from the cartoon series. He was supposed to be a part of the game, and he's not in the game. And then early screenshots and footage also show Jim riding his pocket rocket, which is like a little spaceship he rides in, and it has a fuel meter, and you can race to other missions, and that's not in the game. There's also Jim snowboarding. That's not in the game.
Oh, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that was just kind of loosely based on the Earthworm Jim TV series, but by the time of the release had been off the air for 3 years. So It's not in the game. It just made it look really weird. Like promotional stuff was just all over the place for this game. Also, another bad sign that your game is not doing great in development is when the game was 70% complete, they were still struggling trying to fix frame rate and animation issues.
Uh-oh.
Which is not a good sign.
Yep.
So, at the time, original series designer David Perry, he sold the rights, okay? And then the characters had to be redesigned from the 2D side-scrolling to the free-roaming 3D. And Perry and the original creator, Doug TenNapel, met with Viz, okay, to discuss the game early in development, and both of them told them that they hated what was being done to Earthworm Jim 3D, but they legally could not do anything about it. They just said, like, TenNapel is quoted by saying he said the series was, quote, ruined by the game. So
poor
like,
guy.
ugh, ouch, yeah. Earthworm Jim's story, though, actually sounds pretty cool. Like, I just think the execution was off. So in the plot of the Earthworm Jim 3D, Earthworm Jim is hit by a flying cow. Okay, that puts him into a coma.
Uh-huh. Checks out. So far, so good.
Makes sense. Jim awakens in his own subconscious, and then he learns he has gone insane, and his past villains have entered his subconscious, and if something doesn't happen soon, Jim will be in a coma forever. Oh, no, this is a very heavy story. His super ego has been unleashed within his subconscious to stop the madness. To restore his sanity, he must find the golden udders of lucidity. Very cow-centric game. Okay?
Yeah, this all checks out.
Yep. When Jim enters his subconscious, he finds out that his 4 mind chambers have been taken over by his worst fears. He must collect golden udders to unlock the other 3 chambers and green marbles to unlock the levels within the chamber. Jim defeats 4 villains who took over his mind chambers and finally faces the personification of his trauma, Earthworm Kim. That's right.
Who is Earthworm Kim?
It's a lady earthworm. That's all I got so far. Isn't that interesting, though?
Wow.
So, the game came out on October 31st, 1999, which is 4 years after the release of Earthworm Jim 2.
That's
Actually,
a long
almost
time.
4 years. It's like a less than a month under a year. The game got mixed reviews. Most of the reviews float around like the 50 to 60% range. The biggest complaint was the camera. Games
Classic complaint of 90s 3D platformers.
Yeah, GameSpy called the camera, quote, a kamikaze mission to destroy the game.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, they're really going for the jugular in these old 90s reviews. So you'd think they'd like, kind of be like, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to cut our losses after this. We're just going to be done making Earthworm Jim games. And you'd be wrong.
Oh, no.
17 days later, a game called Earthworm Jim Menace to the Galaxy would release on Game Boy Color. So this game was developed by David A. Palmer Productions and published by Crave Entertainment. And this game takes Earthworm Jim back to the 2D platforming run and gun days, which you'd think would be a good thing.
Yeah,
but
that sounds
it's not.
Uh-oh.
So they actually kind of changed the gameplay of this game, and they made it more about exploring levels and collecting items than shooting enemies and progressing like the wacky story, which is the most important part of the game. That just didn't really happen. Craig Harris, who reviewed the game for IGN, said the game has, quote, total disregard to what makes Earthworm Jim, Earthworm Jim. There's not enough cleverness here. The same element that made Earthworm Jim one of the best and funniest action games on the 16-bit systems. So, end quote. It just didn't feel like an Earthworm Jim game. It just felt like another platform where you're collecting things. You know, it might as well be Mario. Yeah. And I was like, hey, you know what? What's David A. Palmer Productions? I couldn't find a lot on it. Okay. So I found a little section from Giant Bomb's website where they describe David A. Palmer Productions, and I'm going to read it. And you're going to be like, okay, this is a thing. So here it is. David A. Palmer Productions originally started out in 1977 as Palmer Acoustics Limited as an audio manufacturer. In 1981, Palmer Acoustics Limited started working on video games. Palmer Acoustics Limited started out working on games for systems such as the Sinclair Spectrum, Commodore 16 and 64, and the Amstrad. Have we ever talked about the Amstrad?
I don't think so. That doesn't sound familiar.
I don't even know what it is either. Yeah, it's like, what's that? It sounds crazy. But in 1993, the Palmer Acoustics Limited video game divisions was officially named David A. Palmer Productions.
Not enough of that guy's name in there. He was like, I need
name
more.
in. That's right. Like, if we were just going to have like an Osby & Co., I'd be like, no, we need it to be the Tyler A. Osby & Company. That's what I would say. I also I think A just sounds like a good middle name for you. I don't know if that's your middle name.
It's not.
So, that's perfect. So in 1981, they had been involved in the design, development, and or publishing over 250 video games, which is a lot, but I've never heard of this company. And David A. Palmer has worked with nearly all of the major movie studios, except Disney. They hadn't worked for Disney, okay? But the company
maybe they're releasing a lot of vaporware.
That's probably why so much vaporware. The company's sister company, High Tech Software, was a major licensee with Warner Brothers for all 103 Looney Tunes characters from 1988 to 1992, and also with Hanna-Barbera Studios. So that was the Giant Bomb thing. And I'm like, what are the games they worked on? So
that's the thing.
They worked on a lot of Game Boy games. Okay. So in reverse chronological order, they worked on the Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones game on May 30th, 2002, Commander Keen on May 17th, 2001, Men in Black 2 the series, November 10th, 1999, Pitfall Beyond the Jungle, December 1998, and one of my personal favorite Game Boy Color games, Gex Enter the Gecko.
All right, so
February
you were very
24th,
familiar with David A. Palmer Productions.
I didn't know I was. That's what's so crazy about it. But now, this game did not do well. It did so poorly, there's not a lot on the internet about it. It just kind of like was a blip on the radar. And so this is the answer I have for the end of the episode here, because we're kind of nearing it already just because there's not a lot to talk about with Earthworm Jim. But is there any hope for Earthworm Jim? And the short answer is yes. But the real answer is a long, long story.
Give me the story, Mike.
We don't normally talk about games that haven't come out yet. We're not the Future History podcast. That makes no sense. But since I love this so much, I'm breaking the rules. It's my podcast. Deal with it. Here we go. Okay. So, and Tyler, if you ever want to break the rules about something you're super passionate about, you're more than welcome to. Okay. You have a 50% stake in this. And I feel like the passion I have towards Earthworm Jim pushed me to 51%. So I'm sure you'll have the passion of a game and it'll push you to 51%. And I will have to bow to your supremacy of the podcast.
Right.
That's how this is going to work. Okay.
You're paying it forward.
Exactly. The history of development of Earthworm Jim 4 starts with a cancellation. In 2007, the PSP version of Earthworm Jim was canceled. So that's just gone. And this was a separate game. It wasn't like a remake of the first one. It was a separate game.
It was a separate PSP game, just like a brand new Earthworm Jim game?
Yep, and it just got canceled. So then Interplay said that they wanted to make the game right. And then the game was officially announced as Earthworm Jim 4 shortly after that cancellation on April 22nd, 2008. Interplay also announced that the original Earthworm Jim creator and voice actor Doug TenNapel would return as a, quote, creative consultant.
Ooh, that's a good sign.
Exciting. And then nothing happened for 2 years.
Vaporware.
No one heard anything. Vaporware. Rumors started to fly around about Earthworm Jim 4 being on the Wii, and then Doug TenNapel had this very long quote that I'm going to read to you right now. Quote, Interplay actually wants to do the game right. We've been talking about a game now for 2 years. They want me to be involved, but times in games are tough right now for everyone. They have to raise a lot of money to fund the game properly. In our early discussions about the game, we had tentatively brainstormed ideas for the Wii. That is not a confirmation like the guy posted. We haven't presented the idea to Nintendo. As with anything in the gaming industry, the whole thing could turn on a dime. Many of the facts can change about the game. What these fans don't understand is how squirrely things are at the beginning of a game. It would take at least 2 years to bring out the game, and that's after we've confirmed the budget and the platform. The game could just as easily go away, get moved to the iPhone, or become a Jim Tetris knockoff as come out as a game on the Wii. People don't understand how unstable game design is at the start. End quote. I wanted to read that whole quote because he was really laying it down what it's like in 2010.
Yeah, he was giving us some real tough love here.
Yeah, so I thought that was important and interesting for our history podcast because it happened in the past. Now, let's keep speculating about this future game. In May 2011, Interplay announced that they were going to experience financial troubles. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
They're going broke. They've actually said they had substantial debt and they continued operating losses, and that could leave many future games in jeopardy. However, Earthworm Jim was not listed as being in jeopardy. Okay? Then, at the Develop Conference in July 2012, Shiny Entertainment founder David Perry said, quote, the thing we had talked about in the past is Jim had been in retirement. So he's been sitting at home watching movies and eating popcorn. He's grossly overweight now. The plan was to start him literally getting off the sofa. And it's a disaster because he just hasn't done anything since, but he's got to get back into the action again, end quote. So they're giving a little like teasers into what Earthworm Jim is doing. And then 3 years later, on October 2015, original Earthworm Jim lead artist Nick Bruty held a Reddit AMA. Gosh, I love Reddit. It's the greatest place. Okay, where he addressed the issues that the fourth title fell into. He said, quote, oh man, a new Earthworm Jim game with the original team almost happened about 5 years ago, but a deal with the IP owners couldn't get worked out. I think everyone would be up for it sometime. Feels like unfinished business, but hard to align everyone. I wouldn't do it without the key players, end quote. And I got to respect that because that makes me happy. Good for you, Nick Bruty. Now, this is October?
Yeah.
5 months ago, May 2019. A new Earthworm Jim game was announced by Intellivision Entertainment.
They still exist?
Yes.
Wow.
President and Earthworm Jim 1 and Earthworm Jim 2 composer Tommy Tallarico said the game will
Oh.
be exclusive for the upcoming Intellivision Amico video game console, which is scheduled to release on October 10th, 2020.
I've never heard of this console. Now I need to look it up.
I'll talk to you about it too. I got some things. I got some thoughts. Members of the original development team involved with the project include Doug TenNapel, creator and voice actor, Tommy Tallarico, composer and sound designer, David Perry, programmer, Nick Brutti, lead artist, Nicholas Jones, programmer, Tom Tanaka, level design, Steve Crow, background artist, Edward Schofield, animator, and Mike Dietz, animator. That's the whole gang's back. So
The whole crew.
Yeah, they actually did a live stream too, which is cool, on May 4th, 2019, and they announced like details for the game, like it could be played from a 2D perspective consistent with the series' original games, but unlike those games, it will contain local multiplayer gameplay.
Ooh, that's fun.
And the game will not be a reboot of the previous games and may contain both prequel and sequel elements. The final title of the game also remains under discussion. So, there's going to be another Earthworm Jim. It's going to be on this console called the Intellivision Amico. All right. This console, by the way, if you don't know anything about it, it's actually designed to kind of be like almost a throwback console. It's only $149.99 retail.
Okay.
So it's very reasonable. And I think they're kind of going for that market that classic consoles have. And they actually have a lot of exclusive games that are kind of old school like this, like Earthworm Jim coming out for it. So people think it's going to be a launch title on the Intellivision Amico, and it's going to come out with the console in October 2020. Personally, this is promising to me, but I don't like that the sequel will be buried behind like a console exclusivity deal. I'd almost rather have them release it on everything.
Yeah.
I guess it's not a big deal though, because the console is only $149.99 retail supposedly when it comes out. But I think the way they do this, and we've talked about this before with our favorite, I want to say remake, but it's not. Doom 2016 did Doom so well. It should be like that. They should stick with that side-scrolling platformer thing they know that works. But they should give it a full graphic overhaul and just make it a really good platforming game. You know, make it like Cuphead. You know how Cuphead was like challenging and the art was beautiful? You could do that with Earthworm Jim now. I think that's really what they should go for. Who knows what they're going to do? The local multiplayer thing sounds cool. It'd be really fun to play multiplayer Earthworm Jim with people, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to buy an Intellivision Amico. I already got so much stuff. Not bragging. It's just trash. My room's just full of trash. I just want to add more to it. I just can't. Okay.
I have a prediction here. The Intellivision Amico is going to do poorly, and it will be discontinued, but all of the games will eventually be made available on Steam. That's what I bet will happen.
Good prediction. I hope that's true. But that's Earthworm Jim, everybody. And I know it's not like a really big popular title, but it's near and dear to my heart. Okay, I remember playing this game. I remember playing with the toy as a kid. I loved the idea of an earthworm finding a super suit. I loved it. And I felt like there was so much more there. Just falling from space. So many things fall from space. And it's good. And the second one was so crazy. It was just so weird that it just stood out so well to me. It kind of had that cool edge that Sonic had. Mm-hmm. You know, where it's just like, this is a game for teenagers. Ooh, not just kids, but teens and young adults will like this game too.
You want to be cool? Play some Earthworm Jim.
Exactly. So that is that. If there's nothing else, Tyler, what you been playing?
The only thing that I've been playing this past week, because it's been just super nutso at work, I've been playing some Destiny. We've been going through Shadowkeep together. We're about like 5 to 6 hours in, or I am. You played a little bit more than me, but that's pretty much it. Just Destiny at this point.
Yeah, the family that Shadow keeps together, Battle keeps together. Sure.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That worked for me. The friend game is the end game. That's better. That feels good. But I've been playing a lot of Destiny 2 also with you, and then I've been playing 7 Days to Die with my brother. And Apex Legends got a new map.
Ooh.
And I've been playing that out. They also got a new character called Crypto who has a drone, and he can like knock people's shields down with his drone ultimate. It's
that's
pretty cool. Big fan of it. Big fan. So I've been having fun with that. But yeah, I've been kind of also taking it easy. So things have been kind of crazy. But it's good. I'm excited. And that's it. Oh, let me check to see if we've got any reviews or emails. I haven't done this yet.
Yeah.
What am I doing? What am I, a unprofessional podcaster?
Oh no!
Most
Now you're
most
let the
podcasters
scenes
would,
through.
Yeah, most podcasters would cut this part out, but I'm not because I want them to see the real
Yeah.
thing. Oh man, we got 2 new emails.
Oh boy!
Oh man, I'm gonna read them on the podcast. I haven't even read these yet. You ready?
Yep.
This one's from Ian. Hey Ian. Hi guys, loving the podcast. Just binged and caught up with the episodes. That's so sweet of you, Ian. Thank you for doing that. A couple of things I thought y'all missed. OG Xbox exclusives like Ninja Gaiden and Mech Assault. Oh, that's true. We did miss those.
We should do that.
Oh, what have we done? The Ninja Gaiden series was extremely hard, and the graphics for the time were amazing. I would love to hear y'all cover that. Also, on 360, I was surprised Dead Rising got no love. That's a good point. We always miss video games, but there's just so many. It was the first game I got with my 360, and I couldn't read any of the subtitles because the game was made with HD in mind, and I still had a CRT.
Oh yeah, I remember that was a big deal too at the time.
Oh, that was
like
great.
People were like, they just never tested this game on like standard definition televisions. Banjo-Kazooie had a similar issue, Nuts and Bolts, that they ended up putting a patch out for it to like make the text bigger. Yeah, I remember that being a big deal at the time. That's fun.
Oh man, that's great. Ian also says he would love to hear a podcast on old CRPGs like Baldur's Gate and Planescape. I would love that too. I love Baldur's Gate. Big
Yeah,
fan.
I haven't played very many of those, so you'd have to lead that one.
He says, keep up the great work, guys. Thank you, Ian.
Thanks,
keep
Ian.
up the great work, doing whatever you do. You're wonderful.
You're great.
Compliments. You're great, Ian. But yeah, that was so nice. That's a really good ideas in that. I don't know. Was Dead Rising a launch title with the 360? I feel like it might have been.
It was if it wasn't a launch title, it was pretty close. Let's do a quick old Google here. You hear my keyboard clickety clacking.
You know what? I like the clickety clack of your keyboard. It's like ASMR. It feels good for me. I would love to do one on Baldur's Gate. I never played Planescape though, but that sounds
August
wonderful.
8th, 2006 is the original Dead Rising.
Ooh,
So not quite a launch title, but like within the first year.
Pretty close. Thank you, Ian. Big fan of it. Oh man, here comes. Matt's got some corrections and
Yes,
and apologies
Matt in Japan.
from episode 72.
Wait, Matt has apologies?
He said episode 72 corrections and apologies. Is that a new name of our section? That might be. That's why he says that.
Maybe.
Gosh, Matt in Japan, you're great. Hey guys, I got a couple of corrections from episode 72 about Sonic the Hedgehog. First, when Tyler was talking about tails and his 2 tails coming from the Japanese myth of the two-tailed fox, the Japanese myth of the kitsune. Oh wait, nope, kitsune. He put the speech pronunciation in there because he knows I mess stuff up. That's how great Matt is. Kitsune is actually a 9-tailed fox and is also where the Pokemon Ninetales gets its namesake from.
Do you remember that?
Well, yeah, the 9-tailed fox is also the spirit sealed within Naruto from the anime series, in case you guys decide to do a history of Naruto games or anime games, which is another great idea. Gosh, great ideas. Second, Tyler talked about the save system from Super Mario World and how it compared to Sonic 3. Tyler said that when you get a game over in Super Mario World, it sends you back to the beginning of the world. In fact, in Super Mario World, you can only save your progress only after beating castles or ghost houses. That's true. I remember that.
Yeah, yep, that's right.
Moreover, saving and quitting your game in Super Mario World will actually reset your progress to as if you had gotten a game over. Oh, really? That's interesting. It's like saves treated like a game
So
over.
you
For example,
got to get to the end of the world before you quit, or else you just wasted your time.
that's true. For example, say you had like 30 extra lives, 2 feathers, and a Yoshi upon saving and quitting your game. When you boot up the game again, you only have 5 lives, be a small Mario, and won't have Yoshi. Oh, that's so lonely.
Get cheated out of your lives.
Keep up the good work, Matt in Japan. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks,
and
Matt.
Ian. I'm so glad I checked our email. Gosh, that came out of nowhere. Big fan of it. That you can always send emails to us at codexhistorypodcast@gmail.com. Means the world to us. You can find Tyler on Twitter at SneakerElf, ELPH. You know what I mean? Get that sweet ELPH in your name. Big fan of it. We got 38 ratings. Thank you, people who have rated us. It means the world. You can find me on Twitter at Mecoletta, MECOLETTA. And next week, I don't know what we're doing next week. What are we doing next week, Tyler?
I don't know. It's a mystery. It's a surprise.
It's going to be a big old box of mysteries. Doing mystery games. Just kidding. I don't know what we're doing. Anyway, thank you all so much for listening. You know what? No. You know what, Tyler? You close this one out.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. We really appreciate it, and it means so much to us. We will catch you next week with our surprise episode on who knows what it's going to be on. It's a surprise. I don't know what it's going to be on, Mike.